Woo boy. Welcome to Just the Thought Podcast, episode 9. This is a lengthy one. This is a lengthy one, but well worth it, okay? I'm talking to my friend, coach, and just an inspiring person, Jason Porter. Um, and he is a lifelong martial artist who's owned many gyms and that have spawned many other gyms. In addition to that, he's now become a musician. So we find out about that. We find out about him becoming a new grandfather. We delve into our past as a student and master in the martial arts. And we delve into life philosophies, where we see ourselves in the future, present, and where we saw ourselves in the past and things like that. Very, very deep podcast here. And I know it's lengthy, but please watch the whole thing and so on. I'm going to try to put some timestamps in the description if I can figure out how to do that. But um, please enjoy. Just a Thought Podcast, episode 9. All right. So nice to have you on here finally.
Yeah.
Last time I saw you was last year, right?
Yeah, over the summer, right?
Yeah, it was last year. And
Yeah,
we had a nice long talk. I think we talked for like, I don't know, at least a couple of hours up there.
Yeah, true. It was
Yeah.
good to catch up.
Absolutely. So how you holding up right now in the pandemic there? You're not holed up in the
Pretty
attic,
good.
are
I
you?
mean, what's that?
You're not holed up in the attic there, are you?
No. No, this is where I play music, but yeah, no, I don't know. It's been all right. I mean, I'm a solitary person anyway, so it's not too difficult, but playing music.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, for me, I'm having to still work during the pandemic here, and I'm working on the front lines as it were, because I do have patients that have corona and that I gotta deal with every day, and
Wow.
it's yeah, it can cause a bit of anxiety, but um, somebody's got to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's crazy though.
when I signed up to be a nurse, I don't know if you remember when I was in nursing school, I was training with you over at the old CNY MMA.
Yeah.
And but yeah, man, I signed up for it. You know what I'm saying? You take an oath and everything like that, so you can't just run away now that things are getting hairy and scary. So
No, but it still is scary. That's for sure.
yeah,
It's got to be.
yeah, it definitely is. I mean, next month I was even considering working in the city and being even more involved in the situation, as it were. But like I said,
Yeah, I
somebody's
seen
got to
you.
do it.
I think I seen you post something about that. Well, what did you decide? Have you made a decision on that?
Yeah, I'm about 99% sure I'm going down to the city, and I think my wife is coming with me. She kind of volunteered her. I didn't anticipate her coming, but she kind of volunteered herself. She's like, "Well, if my husband's going, I'm going." I was like, "Well, wait a minute now." You know what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
saying? But she wants to come with me, and I guess we'll go down there, possibly if we can get housing. I think that some of the facilities may provide housing for us, and they're paying a pretty hefty penny. I mean, I'm hearing as much as $100 an hour and things like that. So it's not charity work. We're getting paid for it. So
Yeah,
it
and
is
you
what it
should
is.
be. Yeah, you should be getting
Yeah,
paid for it. You know.
yeah. Well, I mean, enough about me. I'm sure people are tired of hearing about the corona all the time, 24/7 at
Right.
this point. But I wanted to say first of all, I might have said this before on Facebook, but congratulations on becoming a grandfather.
Yeah,
And
it's been pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. How many? Is it one
Yeah, just one.
boy or girl?
Girl, Scarlet Grace.
Okay, I like the name.
Yeah,
You
it's
didn't
a
pick
pretty
you,
name. It's old
okay,
name.
like one of those names from like the 40s or something like that. Like
Yeah, yeah. Gone with the Wind.
Gone with exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, would you say what sort of impact would you say becoming a grandfather has had on you? Any change at all in your perspective or how you see things or how you behave or anything?
A lot of people told me that would be the case. Um, that maybe you have more time than you did with your own children, but I always prioritized my kids, and I had a real close bond with both my kids, so I spent a lot of time with them. And it's something I cherished, and I knew I was able to live in the moment at the time and knew that I would never get that time back. Um,
Yeah.
so we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with the kids, and that's actually been the biggest change for me in the last 3 years is, my son graduating and moving out. So I don't think it did. Not me. I think maybe a lot of parents who maybe didn't have the time with their kids that they wanted now have time with their grandkids. So it's different.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they didn't love their kids and I don't love my granddaughter. I love her dearly, but I just, I don't have to live through my granddaughter, maybe the life I didn't get to live with my kids.
Yeah.
So,
And I do recall you spending a lot of time with your son. I mean, he was into football and everything like that too.
yeah,
And then Megan was into martial arts and she was into a lot of other stuff as well. I think she played soccer too, didn't she?
tennis and
My mistake.
lacrosse.
Tennis. Oh, my mistake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lacrosse. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do remember you prioritizing spending a lot of time with your kids. So
Yeah, and at that time, that's really the only time I had. It's if I wasn't with them, I was at the school. So
mhm.
yeah, made sure that they were the priority.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, the way I know you is through martial arts and you being my coach, my sensei, my master, and teaching me how to box, basically teaching me how to fight. Coming in there thinking I knew something, I didn't know a damn thing. So so I know you obviously you're a martial artist, lifelong, also now musician, and
Yeah,
but I want to go back in time a little bit, and
sure.
I know you're someone that's well schooled, well learned, and you do have a few academic achievements. What are those?
I did get my bachelor's and master's degree from Binghamton University.
Mm,
Uh, so my master's was in spatial analytics,
okay.
and I focused on disease clustering, oddly enough.
Wow. Okay.
Um, yeah, so uh, like say childhood leukemia.
Hmm.
Well, my master's thesis was on bladder cancer. I studied bladder cancer and tried to determine whether or not it was clustered in Broome County, Johnson City specifically,
Hmm.
and if that spatial clustering was tied to the environment. There was a lot of industry back in the day here.
Yeah.
There were a lot of cases of cancer, so I tried to prove that there was cancer clusters, not only space. I think a lot of people look at it and say, "Oh, there's only been 1, 2 cases in the last 6 months." I looked at it over years too, so it was temporal clustering.
Okay.
So maybe the clustering was 20 cases over 30 years in one
Okay.
geographic area.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
yeah, epidemiology was classes I took. So statistical analysis, which I really liked, science.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
with that said, I mean, I guess I did say I did not realize that is what you were studied in,
yeah.
epidemiology. But so I will backtrack a little bit. What are your thoughts on what's going on right now with the corona, and so on? Since you're someone who has studied in that field.
I mean, it is scary how the growth rate seems it's exponential, right? So
Yeah.
fast growing, and I just don't feel like I feel like we're going to see spikes. I think
Hmm.
it's gonna drop, but then I think it's gonna spike
Yeah.
again. So but who knows, right? So it very could change our entire future and how we handle things.
Yeah.
And I honestly haven't gotten too tied up into it because to me it's scary. It's somewhat scary.
Yeah.
so I don't want to overthink it.
Yeah.
But I'm aware of it, obviously, and what the repercussions are. For me, it's scary what the impact is going to be socially and economically. You
Yeah.
know.
I have to say, I agree with you. I think the side effects of what's going on right now on the economy and so on moving forward, I mean, there's a good possibility that we're going into a depression, a Great Depression of this century, akin to the one that happened here in America in the last century.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
yeah, and that's unfortunate. I mean, we were booming here. You know, this has been the land of opportunity. This is, you know, I'm an immigrant myself. This is why we came here, for opportunity that we didn't have in our own country, the freedom to pursue anything we want and potentially have success based on how much work we put into it. And right now, there really isn't a whole lot of opportunity. I mean, for me, I'm lucky that I am in the medical field, but I'm also unlucky in that I'm having to put my life at risk on a daily basis at work. Um, you know, dealing with this, and if I don't do it, then I can't make ends meet. So you know, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. But you know, it is what it is. I guess we can all, um, you know, we can either burn in the fire, or we can be reborn as potentially a phoenix and become a better version of ourselves. Learn from our mistakes and learn how we can improve in our behavior in societies and have better perspective on really what's important right now. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I hate to see something like this happen, but I always kind of had a feeling that sometimes, in business, you got to like kind of take the current process and blow it up and start over, so to speak. And I use blow up loosely, but like dismantle it and start over, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of have had that feeling about the country. Like I was getting scared. I admittedly don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news in years because it just
Same here. Same here.
it's and so but I had to fear that. When does it stop? When does
Yeah.
the selfishness and the materialism stop? And when do we get back to what is simple, maybe, or what is it we actually need in life to get by? And I think most people, as we grow, we kind of learn that for ourselves individually in our families, what we want and how we want life to be simpler. But I think as a society as a whole, it seems like it was just going really fast, man. Well, it
Yeah.
was, right?
Yeah, it was.
I mean, at what
Yeah.
point does it quote unquote blow up? You know? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not saying that because I want to see depopulation. I don't mean that. I mean just for us to blow up in terms of, like you said, like basically stop and take a breath
Yeah.
and think about what's important. You know?
Yeah. And really, you know, the things I don't know. You and I have, and this is one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you in here. You're a deep thinker, and you definitely have caused me to think over the years. Um, I to some degree, and I'm always going to be honest. To some degree, I remember years and years ago. For years, I've been saying that the way society is structured, the way we treat each other in society, something needs to change. And if it means some sort of event happening uh, to that's going to make if that's a requirement, then it is what it is. But now that I'm faced with it and I'm seeing the suffering that people are going through, um, I'm having a weird feeling of guilt by having this thought, even though I have nothing to do with what's going on in a sense.
Yeah.
I just have always felt for a very long time, and I'm a bit of an idealist, and I have a feeling that you are as well. Please tell me if you are. And just in general, the way society is structured and the way people treat each other has bothered me for a very, very long.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Um, the thing is, like, it's funny, not ha ha funny, but it's funny because we're seeing it now in our country. It's impacting our way of living, but people should educate themselves and go out and read and look at what's going on in other parts of the world and has been going on for years. I mean, right? Like this blow up that we're experiencing has been going on for years in other countries. When you see families living in garbage dumps and that's their job, and the pollution, and I mean, in other countries, it's been here, man. They've been living hell on earth for years, generations. So it's selfish that we think we have it so bad, I guess sometimes, but oh boy, it's happening to us now, so everybody wake up. But I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I guess the point is, it's happened in other parts of the world. It's been happening to humanity for years. It's just now affecting our piece of the world, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if did you ever see a movie years ago with Matt Damon called Elysium? I think it was called Elysium. And it was him living, it was a post-apocalyptic world where he was down on the ground on Earth with everybody else. And I guess everybody was living in squalor and poverty. And there was this spinning Elysium, essentially like a heaven on Earth, up floating above in the sky, and everybody was trying to get there. And up there, people lived a very long time. Everybody was clean and pristine. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, man. And I've always considered America to be that Elysium. That goal everybody was trying to get to. When I was a kid, and you hear about America, we always used to we imagined the roads were paved with gold, and food was just dropped from the sky for us. Nobody was ever hungry, and that's essentially how it's been. And now we're facing, I mean, the rest of the world, like you said, a lot of countries in the world have been living with disease, poverty, and depression, war. Yeah.
So it's hitting home, and I think maybe, like we said, it's going to get us to stop, and it's going to get take pause here, and not only look at our own country but humanity as a whole, right? Maybe global thinking, a little better.
So sidestepping a little bit though. So I know that you very poor transition here, but I know you worked at Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me years ago that was a job that you loved. What did you do at Lockheed Martin?
I was a systems engineer. So in grad school, they came looking for someone that could do spatial analytics. And, I was a good student, and my name was thrown into the mix. So I graduated early and went directly to Lockheed. And I didn't really know what the job was. I didn't know really even what a systems engineer was, but it was a really, really good position within the company. And basically, you're a think tank. So you get in a room with a team of people, and they say, hey, we need something that does this. For me, it was postal systems. So we need something in the warehouses that can do this. And you get with the hardware and software engineers and electrical engineers, and you think through all the pieces, the system, and how the system should work. And that always fit, because I didn't know it, but I was a systems engineer because I approached martial arts as a system.
I know. I know that very much.
So, what are the pieces? What's the process? How can you make the process more efficient? How much fat is in the process that can be trimmed off? Systems engineer.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't trim off enough fat when I trained underneath you, because if I did, maybe I'd have had more success with MMA. That's something that I wanted to express to you. This is not something that I know that you're asking for or that you need, but I want to say it anyway. I want to apologize for not being a better student when I was underneath you. I had a lot of issues that I had been dealing with my whole life that I was completely unaware of. I knew that I had a lot of potential and talent in almost anything that I had interest in. But I could never figure out how to maintain my motivation. And that it turned out that was because of major lifelong anxiety and depression. The anxiety, at least I knew of a way to potentially beat that anxiety. And that was through forcing myself through hardship, which is why I always like to fight. Because I knew that fighting made me scared, and there were a lot of things that made me scared. And my thought process was, if I put myself in danger enough, then I'll maybe grow some huevos and actually stop being so afraid all the time. Especially where it came to come to physical contact, because I didn't like to be hit, and you could see it in the way that I fought. Right? I mean, I would try my best to avoid engaging in a war with anybody, and that was due to anxiety. I did not want to be hurt. I just wanted to be able to defend myself. I wasn't really I don't think I was so much of a fighter as I was somebody who just wants to defend either themselves or people they care about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Biggs, well, I wouldn't say you weren't successful. I think maybe how you measured your success, or maybe, if you feel you didn't give 100%, that's one thing, but you still achieved some pretty cool stuff. I mean, did you fulfill your potential? No, because you're an amazing athlete. And I still to this day have never seen anyone in the heavyweight division that can move like you do. So could you have been the type of guy that was in UFC if they put into work? 100%. You had the athletic ability and aptitude to learn the technique, So you were missing the one piece, which was motivation to train, which is a big piece of it. But again, though, like, that wasn't your goal. I didn't, I was a kid when I got into martial arts, but even as I got older, I could have done MMA. It wasn't prevalent. And at the time, there was no amateur rank to kind of feel yourself out, and there was no place to really train it. Well, there was no place to train it. But that's not why I got into it. I never got into the martial arts for that. I got into it the same as you. Like, I'm protective by nature. So I just wanted to get into it, to be able to protect myself and eventually my friends and family. But then I just fell in love with the martial arts and what it meant and the science behind it. And I had a family to raise, and the timing wasn't right, and I can make excuses. But the truth is, I didn't want to fight. It wasn't a goal for me.
Yeah.
Now, would that have changed if I was in your position? Because at the time you came up, you were surrounded by 60 other fighters.
Yeah.
So, for lack of better words, peer pressure plays a part too.
Yeah. I mean, I remember sitting on my butt playing video games, doing nothing, and you shooting me text messages, be like, "Biggs, where you at?" That was my nickname at the time, by the way. Biggs.
Yeah, it was Biggs. Yeah.
But it's still quite appropriate.
Yeah.
But I remember a lot of times I wanted to quit. I would stay away from the gym for months at a time. 1, 2 months. I would come into the gym, have a whole lot of success, get my cardio up, start losing weight, start looking like I'm ready to fight, and then disappear for a month or two. And it was mainly because of anxiety and depression. Like, I just didn't know how to stay motivated. I wanted to just sit down and do nothing because I was depressed. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't understand structure, and like you pointed out, systems. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you as a coach, was the fact that you had these systems that were somewhat rigid, but not realizing at the time, because I was young and wet behind the ears, how important structure and systems are towards success. I mean, I was 25 at the time when I met you.
Yeah.
I'm 36 now, so it's been 11 years since we've known each other. And you impressed the hell out of me, man. I mean, since then to this day, I've always had a ton of respect for you, because you have this amazing ability to analyze systems and create order out of chaos. And I'm telling you right now, that's one of my, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass because we're talking right now. One of my biggest regrets is not taking the things that you taught me to the highest level and showing it to the world. That is one of my greatest regrets. Like, when you posted those videos the other day on Facebook, I was like, dude, I let this guy down. I really do honestly feel. I know you probably don't feel that way, but I feel that way. I feel like I let you down, man.
No, I don't feel that way, Biggs, because everybody. That's why I always told guys who wanted to compete. I said, you can't do this for somebody else. You can't do it for chicks. You can't do it because you want to walk around like you're a badass. Like, you have to do some self-reflection and really figure out why you want to do it. no one else can press you into it. So I always thought that guys who competed once and never competed again, hey, that's they did it once, you know.
Yeah.
Then there was guys in the gym we both knew that were amazing,
Yeah.
but they never wanted to step in the cage.
Yeah. There's a couple that I know that probably would have smashed people in the UFC, and they just did not want to step in the cage.
Yeah, and then you had guys who were amazing in the dojo, or if you want to call it the training room, and then they'd get in the cage and they'd melt down too. So, and then the opposite, you'd have guys that trained like shit and for some reason could turn it on in the cage. So
yeah,
no one. I never felt disappointed from that perspective. I think, you know, so going back, martial arts is martial science, martial system, right? So
yes,
the reason I got into mixed martial arts is I trained in traditional martial arts. And maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but
no, go ahead.
I trained in traditional martial arts, and I had a great instructor, Sensei Ren. I've had a lot of them, but he was really influential when I was young. Sensei Steve Ren, because he trained in Ishin-Ryu, which is a traditional style, but he'd bring guys in to cross train with us, and he'd always be like, "Listen, grasp other things." So that was influential early on in my life. But me personally, I couldn't look at one system and feel like it fulfilled everything. And this is going back now, remember, before UFC.
Yeah.
So I think the first UFC was 91. Something like that. 91 or 92.
There. Yeah.
You know? So I was like 21. I was like, holy shit, man, like this is great. Like, you know, these systems are competing, but you know, I knew one discipline wasn't going to cut it. And you know, Bruce Lee said that years ago, right?
Yep. Yeah, you did.
And look at the challenges he faced trying to mix it up. And that was my generation, you know, that he was a big influence on us. So between Bruce Lee, you know, the influence in reading about him, and my instructor, Sensei Ren, telling me don't stop here, and then just my natural curiosity of why. I always ask the question, why? Why does Shotokan karate throw front kick this way, and Ishin-Ryu throw it this way, and Taekwondo this way, and Muay Thai this way? And the only way I could get that answer was by training in different systems. But I never, even from a very early age, I wouldn't go into a system and just take Taekwondo or just take, you know, Muay Thai or whatever. I would go into it knowing the pieces I wanted to grab out of it, or at least what I thought I wanted to grab out of it based on what I knew about the system.
Right.
So I would pick out a system based on what I wanted to grab from it, and then I'd go into it with an engineering or science background.
Yeah.
Let me break it down.
Yeah.
Really break down the technique, not knowing at the time I would ever coach. I just wanted to break down a front kick from 4 different systems and try to figure out the best, most efficient way of doing it. And then little did I know later in years, it, you know, lent itself to me creating my own systems and teaching my own style, which had its own, that was tough too, man. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people didn't like that. It's still frowned upon, even to this day. And MMA's gotten big now. There's people who open up fight gyms.
Yeah.
And they just teach what they know, pieces of what they know.
Yeah.
But in 98, when I opened up, it was, and I was teaching, you know, mixed martial arts, which no one really knew what the hell it was. People in the martial arts community would frown on it and ridicule it. Who's this freaking guy teaching this, man? He should be teaching, you know, a system that's been proven out, or, you know, yada, yada. But all martial arts are mixed.
Yeah.
All martial arts are mixed.
Yeah.
From someplace.
From someplace. I'd say if you go back far enough, they're taking elements from something that
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu did what? Focused on the judo aspect.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Ishin-Ryu karate took Goshin and Shorin-Ryu and mixed. You know? Taekwondo took Muda Kwan and Tang Soo Do and one other system and made Taekwondo. Martial arts have always been mixed. But I get it where other other martial artists would be like, he's making his own system. Where's the credentials?
Yeah.
And I totally agree. I've seen people make systems up, and I poo-pooed on them to some extent because you can't go train in a garage with books and videos and open up a school and say you're teaching mixed martial arts either.
Right.
There's too much of that. But
so my question, and that leads me into my next question, was, do you ever plan on, and I know that you're opening up have you already opened up your new school, or are you?
It wasn't a school. I was just, I've been out of it for 3 years, and being in it my whole life, I was ready to go back and give back. Give back because I feel like I have more to offer, but also because I love coaching, So I was just doing 2 nights a week. 2 nights a week at the Boys and Girls Club in Owego.
Okay.
I didn't want the overhead or the hassle of renting, and quite honestly, Biggs, I didn't want to. For 20 years, I coached, every night of the week after my regular job, and was gone every weekend, and I just don't want that,
Yeah.
But the balance.
Yeah, the balance is important.
I will say if the right guy or couple of guys came to me and said, "Coach me to fight," I would do that again.
I was actually talking to Jay, my wife, and I was telling her, I honestly, and please tell me what you think about this. I think that you can either have talent or you can have drive. If you had to pick from either one, I would say drive is more important. But it sounds to me like what the right guy for you would be the third option, which is somebody who has talent and drive naturally. So that way you can mold that clay into something special. What do you think?
Yeah, I think as a coach, you want someone who's coachable, that's going to listen and not half-ass their technique either, right? And then
Right.
they got to buy into the system and know that in the end, all these building blocks are going to lead to this one piece, which, is the void element. The 5 elements is the void element.
Yeah.
You got to pull the fire, you got to pull the water, the wind, and the earth, and create this void element. And I've had guys that fall in all 3. You were the talent, right?
Yeah.
Guys like you were very talented. And you're gonna win fights.
Yeah.
You're gonna win fights on talent.
Yeah.
Then you have guys who were driven, and I'm not going to name them, but we know the guys who were driven and didn't really have the natural aptitude for it, but became really good martial artists.
Yeah.
And then there was a few that, boy, I don't know if I had any fighters that were both,
right? Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day when you posted those videos. I was like, none of us had both, as far as I can tell. I mean,
you had some guys that were right there, but they didn't know how to train, or they thought they were training to their max potential, but they weren't because they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And you can only say it so much, but it's I guess it becomes a thing where you have to want it more than anything.
Yes.
It's like when I was going to school, the reason I graduated top of my class in college is because I wanted it.
Yeah.
The reason I'm playing music now and I'm self-taught is because I wanted it, you can't ask someone to come to train. They have to be there before you show up.
Yeah.
And then they have to have the talent too. And that's not
that is the element. That is the element that I think is required for you to have an athlete that is highly like let's say like a guy like John Jones. That is what I mean. He's certainly missing a few elements, probably in his brain. But as far as his drive and his talent, that's the perfect marriage right there, right?
Yeah, I would say GSP, John Jones.
GSP, yeah.
Anderson Silva. I mean, guys like that were amazing athletes, but they must have had to drive too. I guess, and again, any of the guys I formerly had as students, I mean, they were really good fighters. We had some really good amateur fighters and
Yes.
some decent low end pro fighters.
Yeah.
But we didn't have anybody who had both pieces to go together like a Patchy Mix. Have you
Yes.
seen Pat Mix?
Mm-hmm.
And I only bring him up because I'm familiar with him from when I was coaching Team Gladius,
Okay.
and uh, I got to know him pretty well there. That kid, A, is talented. B, he is driven, man. He
Yeah.
just wants to be the best, and he works his ass off. And that's admirable. I was like that. I worked my ass off. I mean, I just didn't have. I had great instructors, but I didn't have an MMA coach. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? There
Right.
wasn't MMA coaches back then.
Yeah.
Uh, but that doesn't mean that I didn't set up the tripod and tape my technique from 3 angles. It doesn't mean I didn't stand in the mirror for hours and throw technique or work my ass off for my cardio. It was just a different time. So I think with that said, actually, Biggs, you can have the guy with drive and the talent, and they don't have the resources. They don't have the coach
Mm.
around them,
Right.
or they may not have the team. I didn't
Right.
have a
Right.
team either.
Right.
Not
Mm-hmm.
like that.
It's
So you
almost like a
got to have
perfect
that team.
storm of everything coming together, huh?
Yeah, kind of does have to be like that, I think. Well, I will name drop a little bit here. Matt Almy.
Yeah.
At the time, he didn't feel like he had the team around him to achieve his goals,
Yeah.
and he moved,
Yeah.
and he did achieve his goals. And
Oh, he's super talented, and that dude is driven, man. He used to
he was
work
driven.
hard, man. I'm gonna have
Yeah,
him on
and
the
I
show
have.
eventually, by the way.
Yeah, you should
Yeah.
talk about talk about a kid who's I call him a kid, but he's a thinker too, man, and
Oh, he's deep. Yeah, he's deep. I love that guy, man.
he's learned how to simplify life, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
It's actually something I say with respect, but I've always had love for that kid, and I still do. But
He was actually one of the first friends I made up here. It was Torres, Alex, and Almi. Those were the first three friends I made when I moved up here 11 years ago.
and 3 guys I still have a lot of love and respect for. So
Yeah.
yeah, Matt, I think felt like he needed to go elsewhere to get what he wanted, but and I'll let him talk to it, but he did send me a message 6 months ago and say, I didn't realize I had what I had at the time with the
Yeah.
guys around me and the coaching around me.
Yeah.
And, it takes hindsight a lot of times. It's hard. It's hard for any of us to live in the moment, isn't it? Like
Oh man. Yep.
it's hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Or if we would have listened to what our elders had to say,
Yes.
I think that was the biggest thing I tried to get my kids to understand is I would talk with them. I wouldn't lecture. I'd try to talk to them like we're talking and try to get to stop and smell the roses,
Yeah.
so to speak. But that's so hard to do, man.
Yeah,
So
especially
hard.
with kids, so leads me to one of the things is I don't know what your philosophy is, and of course it changes from person to person. But I honestly think a lot of men don't grow up until they're hit like at least 30. You still want to be a kid. You still want to sit home and do nothing. You still want to, you know what I'm saying? You still want to be non-productive. You still want those days when you didn't have to work or you didn't have to do much. I suspect that didn't necessarily apply to you, but it certainly applied to me. And it was once I hit 30, which at this point, I think I was looking to move away at that point. And it was maybe 30, maybe a little bit after that, that I finally became self-aware, which is the reason I started one of the reasons I started this YouTube channel. I don't know if, I'm not looking for you to compliment me, but I am saying that I don't know if you notice a difference in me now versus when I was your student. And
100%, yes. And I think one of the things after you and I spoke, I came home and talked to my girlfriend. And I can't remember what I told her, but I spoke to her for at least an hour about you and how you changed, and I just kind of went through the timeline, and your self-reflection, I think, is the biggest thing. Your ability to now take accountability. And that's a great example. I'm not accountability on major things, just accountability as a person. Like that's hard for us to do as people. We want to pass blame and make excuses and not really find out what makes us tick or what the problem is that's causing us to make bad choices even. Yeah. And I even felt it 10 minutes into this discussion.
Yeah.
You were able to, quote unquote, man up. And I don't know that that's the right word, but just be truthful. Like, listen, I was lazy, man. I didn't fulfill my potential. I didn't work as hard as I could have worked, and I've learned a lot from that. And I know why that is. Well, it gives me goosebumps, Biggs, to think about it, because how many people can't do that, man? Can't self-reflect enough to make a change and want to be a better person tomorrow than they are today. Yeah. It's just huge props for that. Yeah, you're 100% changed. You're a different person. And that's
I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, and I can't remember what the discussion was. I don't know if you remember when we were in Erie, Pennsylvania for fights.
Yeah.
And I think you and I walked outside. We were shooting the shit. And that was a really good discussion, man, even back then. And that's when I knew you were a deep thinker and had a big heart and that you would figure shit out because you were trying to figure it out. And I can't remember what the discussion was, but I remember walking away from it. And I remember now, 8 years later, that, it was a really good discussion, that it had an impact on what my impression of you was. So I guess.
Now that I feel a little self-conscious, I feel like I'm making this podcast about me when really and truly I would love to hear your thoughts.
No, man, because the podcast, I think it's good because I say all the time, more people should be taking time to self-reflect. I felt like I always have, but I came across things too after I no longer was teaching. I simplified my life. My kids graduated. Mm-hmm. My quote unquote issues came to the surface too of, I had daddy issues that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of self-reflection and reading and learning and trying to be a better man and trying to figure out, I don't know. There was a lot of things that caused me to be driven to try to prove to somebody or to validate that I was good enough. And then quite honestly, over the years, because I didn't want confrontation or I didn't want to upset my friends who I thought were friends, I would take the high road. And the high road's okay sometimes, but I've also learned that if you swallow a lot of emotion and a lot of hurt, by the time you're 50 like I am, it's going to eat you up too. So,
yeah.
And I don't mean like romantic relationships necessarily. I mean business relationships, friendships. And it may be the hurt is like a ball peen hammer, just a little pop, but it's enough to make you stop and take that, swallow that.
Yeah.
Then you have situations in relationships where it's a freaking sledgehammer and you eat it. Well, over time, those start to build up.
Yes, they do.
And it's not just me. It's like a lot of people, so I'm grateful that I've been able to take the time now to figure out why my issues have led me to do some really cool things in life, but also have held me back. Yeah. And how swallowing what I didn't think was hurt has caused me to have a lot of hurt by the time I was 48, 49.
Yeah.
So
this leads me to ask a question, which is where I wanted to segue into. How have you changed as a person? What have you learned in the last, I'm going to say 5 years roughly, that has really impacted you? Because I see a great change in you as well. You seem so peaceful, so calm. I'm sure you have stress in life like we all do. No matter what, you can't do away with that. And actually it causes growth. So what's wrong with that? But you do seem to be more at peace than you used to be, and now you're a musician and you started a band and so on. Talk about that a little bit.
So the last, I guess, 5 years would encompass getting out of the schools. So I think a lot of people that were close to me had a hard time understanding why I wanted to get out of a business that was successful. I mean, when I decided to leave 5 Element MMA, which prior to that was Power One MMA, we had to do a name change because of copyright things. But
yeah, I remember that.
Anyway, so I remember people saying, "Jay, how can you get out of a successful business? You have 5 schools, 700 students. Your fighters are really starting to catch their groove. How can you kind of, quote unquote, turn your back on that?" And I'll say I never just turned my back. I gave fair warning. I tried to tell people for 2 years that I was working my way out, but they didn't want to hear it. And I hurt a lot of people. I did hurt a lot of people pulling out of that. And I did the best I could not to hurt people. And I don't just mean business partners. I mean like friends that were into martial arts. I have a lot of great friends that were students, yourself included. Too many to name, really.
Yeah, I mean that's because you're a great guy. I mean, it's easy to make great friends when you're a great guy.
You know, I never had bad intentions with any of my students, and I guess that's why I can lay my head on my pillow now. I never went into anything with bad intentions, including my business partners or fighters. All of my intentions were paved in gold, but not everything works out the way you want them to either.
Yeah.
Or you hand somebody an opportunity and they don't put in the hard work, right? So they got to learn to take that accountability themselves, which people have struggled doing. So how have I changed? So moving into that, I'm the type, I can't just do something and stop. I can't just have one school. I got to have 5. Why? Goes back to my issues. You know, I have to prove myself. I have to, validate. I have to keep going and going. And at the time, I was fortunate enough to be close friends with a gentleman who was, for lack of better words, he's a 1%er financially.
Yeah.
And I seen all this great stuff he had, but I also seen what he paid to get there. And I don't mean paid by like just unbalanced to some extent.
Yeah.
And he warned me. He said, "Be careful what you wish for." And at the time, I didn't know what it meant. But I'm thankful I had that time with him, because it opened my eyes to, if I was chasing if I was chasing this thing that was even a small percentage of what I thought he achieved, that was not what I wanted. It was never what I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted to spread the word of mixed martial arts and martial arts in general. And how do you do that? By reaching as many people as you can. Well, I feel like I got there, I mean, I had the schools, I was doing the promotions and spreading the word. And then after you kind of, quote unquote, get there, wherever that get there is, whatever your goal is, I got to my goal. And I kind of looked around, metaphorically speaking, and realized it's not what I wanted. I was unhappy. It's not what I wanted, man. I wanted a simpler life than that. So I took, a couple years and forewarned people that I was getting out, but it didn't matter. It still hurt people. And I regret that hurt people. But I think, so what does that mean, how it's impacted me today? It made me value the simpler life all the more. And I was no longer chasing the recognition, I guess, or validation.
Yeah.
It was never about money. If it was about money, I would have stayed at Lockheed,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have quit Lockheed Martin for a school at the time that was making $12,000 a year,
Yeah.
It was about spreading the martial arts. So I think that was a big thing. And not getting rid of people that are toxic, or maybe that's not the right word. Getting rid of people that don't have the same
goals,
characteristics as you, core tendencies.
People you're not in sync with at all, really, who just don't see the world the way you do at all.
You don't see the world the way you do, and you're fighting the battle against them the whole time to try to no matter what you do and how good your intentions are, there's certain people that aren't going to recognize it because they're either so hurt in the past by somebody else that they have such a guard up that they're always thinking someone's out to hurt them and has a
Tell me
hidden
about it.
agenda.
That was that relationship I was in when I left training with you.
God.
That relationship completely
And
ruined
I'll tell
any
you,
opportunity
Johannes,
that I had.
those people are going to have to do some self-reflection or they're always going to be miserable.
Yeah.
They're going to be, and I hate to say it, but as they get older in life, they're going to be even more miserable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
So shifting bases slightly, I know that you're now more into music. I remember you playing a lot of music and so on and writing and stuff like that, even when you were coaching more often. But it seems you're more heavily invested in that. And what I wanted to ask you was, is this part of that growth? Is this part of you sort of feeling like you're living a simpler life and sort of being able to express your true self in your songwriting or anything?
that's a good question. I mean, I picked up a guitar right before grad school because I said, oh, I just want to be able to play Puff the Magic Dragon around a campfire for my kids, so to speak. But again, being who I wasn't just going to do it. Come to find out, I picked up a guitar, and with the martial arts background I had, I applied it to the guitar, and next thing you know, I'm playing till literally my fingers bled. Got to keep getting those chords, got to get the transitions, got to get, and I mean, I'm self-taught, but I would just spend hours at it, and it was a really good release. Anytime something was going on in my life or I needed space, or some people listen to music as a release, and that was always, playing was always my way to decompress. And I love writing because I like to take imageries and different things and put it into words. And then I don't know, I guess it's another thing like martial arts. If you hit a plateau in martial arts or anything in life, how do you get over the plateau? You persevere through it and you keep pushing. But I've always find it's not only the pushing in life that gets you through the plateaus, it's the finding other pieces to pull into it.
Right.
So if I'm plateauing into martial arts, well, let me see something that's going to test me. Let me go learn this. So guitar was the same thing. It's like, oh man, I'm so sick of playing these chords. What's next? Well, let me teach myself how to sing. All right, feel pretty good about that. What next? Well, why not write? And then
yeah. Well, I mean, so okay. And please don't take this as any sort of lecture at all. But when you've heard the state, and I mentioned this in my previous podcast before when I was talking about John Jones. With great power comes great responsibility, according to Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. Okay. If you're a powerful person, now what does that mean? I think a powerful person, in my opinion, is someone who understands life and sees it unlike most people. And not only do you have that an understanding about life unlike most people, but you also have this ability to move minds and move and influence people. Okay. Now you can either influence people in a negative way,
right,
and you can be a sort of a dictator or I don't know, whatever the case is, or you can influence them in a positive way and be like somebody like say Gandhi. I'm using extreme examples here. Okay,
sure,
super extreme examples. Either way, these are people that are able to move minds and influence people and leave a legacy beyond their lifespan. Because really, how do you live forever? It's by leaving a legacy. You cannot live forever in the flesh. It won't happen. Your only way to live forever is to become someone who people whisper on their lips throughout time. And there's only one way of doing that, and that's by leaving a legacy. And the only people who are able to leave legacies are powerful people. So why would you beat yourself up for being a powerful human being when it's a God-given, quote unquote, God-given talent that you currently, that you obviously have? I honestly think that is why you have this unending need or desire to show and prove who you are to the world, is because maybe subconsciously you understand that you have something to offer that maybe people don't get and can't see. I mean, what do you think?
I think I actually consciously wanted to leave a legacy in terms of And I think that's influenced because of the martial arts. I wanted people. I used to, and this is the first time I'm saying this out loud, but I used to say the day they put me in the ground, I want people to remember me.
Yeah.
Even if it right. So, and
Yeah.
remember me in a positive way.
Yeah.
The problem with that is no matter how hard you try, and if it's innate that you're a good person, and I know I'm a good person, and I think no matter what, you're gonna have people that, if you're successful enough, you're gonna have people that think that you've unintentionally hurt, that are gonna talk bad about you, right?
Yeah.
I think that's part of being a leader or someone who's trying to achieve something. I don't think you can make everybody happy. There's going to be people that think you wronged them purposely. I mean, I know I go back to that a lot, but that's something I had to come to terms with, because, the people that people who say hurtful things about you are hurting themselves.
Yeah.
Right? They can't see within themselves, and they are hurting, so they say hurtful things, and that was very hurtful for me, and it's something that's taken me some time to get over. And if I'm being completely honest, there's a couple of people out there that maybe that I'm still hurt by, and
Yeah.
if they're listening to this, maybe it makes them feel good to know they hurt me. I don't know, maybe that's how they feel like they got their edge.
Yeah.
But the thing is, yeah, I don't know what the separator is, Johans. I mean, I see something and I want to do the best I can at it. So for me, it wasn't just playing music. It was, oh, hey, you want to be in a band? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Why not?
Singer. You're gonna be
Why
the lead
not?
singer. You're gonna be the lead singer in the band.
Yeah.
Okay, what the hell? Hey, and you write music? Yeah. Well, we're gonna play all original stuff. It's gonna be yours. Okay.
That's awesome.
And then it wasn't just that. It's like, hey, I love the music scene, and there's so much great local talent and regional talent out here. I want to get the word out. So, being a promoter, let's do a festival. So it goes from 1-day festival, but hey, that's not good enough. Let's make it 2 days. It's like it's the same thing with
Oh
the
my
fights,
God.
right? Couldn't just couldn't be satisfied promoting mixed martial arts in the first in proudly I look back at it now. At the time I thought it was arrogance, but now I look back at proudly and go, it's the first MMA event in New York. That wasn't good enough. You were there. It had to be at
Oh.
the arena.
Oh, it had to be at the arena.
Right? Had to be at the arena. Had to be 18 fights on this card. Why? Because everybody else
Yeah.
is doing 15, or whatever. And
I
boxing was
love it, man.
15.
I love it.
So
I
it's
love it.
always looking, and I think so kind of circumventing back to like what you asked me earlier. I think I've come to terms with being a little more content too as I'm
Okay.
getting older.
Okay.
I don't need to go out and do 1,000 things.
I mean, you're holding that. You're definitely are holding back the beast to sort of maintain balance in your life, and I can respect that. And I'm going to say the most cliche thing in the world: whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something right now. Personally, and I was thinking about you the other day. I was actually, dude, I think about you a lot, man. And I actually was going to ask you if you're married, because if you're not married, then I'd like to marry you. No, I'm not. No, but I was thinking about you the other day when I started this channel, and I'm 36 now, and I know I'm almost at the age you were when I met you. And I was thinking to myself, I have so many plans. I'll tell you right now, dude. My brain runs at 200 miles an hour, 24/7. Okay, and it at first it was exhausting, and now it's becoming comfortable because I have so many plans in the pipeline. That the only people, well, my close friends, some of my close friends know what those plans are, but my wife definitely does, because I said we have pillow talk every day, and I'm wondering if I will get to the point. Actually, I know for a fact I will get to the point when enough will be enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. Is not enough now, because there's a legacy that I want to leave.
Yeah.
I do feel there's things that, and I mean, the name of this channel is Just a Thought, and the email is selfawarethoughts@gmail.com for a reason. I think there's things myself that I think I could sort of talk about that may benefit people. But there's going to come a time, and I've discussed this with Jay, and we've already had arguments about it, even though it's so far away. I've already mapped out the rest of my life, brother. Okay. I know what I'm doing in 5 years. I know what I'm doing in 10 years, and I know what I'm doing in 20, 25, and so on. But you know what I'm looking forward to the most? And this is not nihilistic, and it is not fatalistic or anything like that. I'm not suicidal. But I'm looking forward to how I end my life. And I'm not going to end it on my own. I'm not talking about suicide here. I'm talking about the last final, hopefully 10 to 15 years of my life. I'm actually looking forward to that the most. And you know what I intend to do? You see this little guy on my shoulder over here, Buddha. He had a philosophy on the fact that suffering comes from desire and wanting, because if you have no possessions or desire for them, then what is there for you to feel sorry about and for you to suffer over? Let it all go. That's what he did. He was a prince. I'm not here to teach philosophy to people in terms of religion or anything like that. I'm just talking about myself. I'm looking forward to the day, and I've already shaved my head, so I'm halfway there. I'm looking forward to the day when I can become a monk, and that is something that I intend to do. I'm going to be 100% honest with everybody here and so on, and myself at all times. Honesty is part of my new philosophy in life and how I absolutely will live by, and that is why I opened the show by apologizing to you. I will 100% be honest all the time, and because it makes me happy. And that's one of the things I wish people did more of was be honest with themselves and everyone else. And in all honesty, I cannot wait for the day when I can become a monk and give away all my possessions, leave everything for the family, leave my legacy, and move on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of a little bit of what you're talking about right now in terms of letting things go and just and living a more simple life. How peaceful does that make you? You know?
Yeah. I'm not quite there yet, but I have done a lot to simplify. But I'm not gonna. I think about driving towards something bigger, like in the past. But then I think about how that's gonna unbalance and stress me out and undue drama and all that. So I think that it had a time and a place. Like where you're at right now, man, you should definitely go out, because there's going to be lessons you learn from the good and the bad of this that will help you even further get to that place of peacefulness when you're 60.
Yeah.
And think about all the stories. For me, it was I want to be able to sit on the porch someday when I'm 70 and tell my grandkids about things, life experiences. And I think it's a shame more people aren't trying to create life experiences when they have an opportunity to do so. And that's what you're doing. And there's going to be a lot of cool doors that open up for you. Then there's going to be some things, because you got a big heart, that are going to be hurtful, but you're going to learn from them, and you'll find contentedness. I think for some people, including myself and yourself, I think contentedness. See, sometimes people think it's complacency, and it's not. It's being content is being happy with what you're doing and what you're achieving too, right? So, and I feel content.
Yeah.
I feel content. There's some things with music I'd like to do, but it's harder to achieve those things in music than it was in martial arts.
Yeah.
And the reality is, you're 50 years old, and I think it comes down to drive too. Like, I don't know that I'm driven anymore like that,
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm
Yeah.
just taking a real deep breath.
Yeah. I think you were. I think you're taking a deep breath. I
I've
can
been
see the
trying to
beast is there, man. It ain't going nowhere. The beast is beast is there. Okay, it ain't going nowhere.
And I tell myself, if I got so I'm 50 in July. I said, if I got another 20 productive years, that's not to say I'm not going to be lived in. And I'm saying roughly, say I got 20 productive years. You know how much shit you can achieve in 20 years, man?
That's a lot of time, man.
I think
my life is going to be completely different in 20 years. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, but you think about how like where you're at right now and how you're getting this going, and man, you could do so much in 20 years, big, so much. And that's why I tell myself, I'm kind of taking a deep breath and kind of reevaluating, but something's going to come along where I really am passionate even more about, and I got to like throw my hat in the ring and go balls out on it one last time. Something.
That's what I want to hear. I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part, whatever it is.
It may be my girlfriend. It may be my girlfriend and I opening up a small farmette. Who knows? Maybe I'll be an antique dealer.
Yeah. The thing is, whatever it is, you can decide that you want to start making artificial, like this leaf. These leaves are artificial leaves you're looking at.
Yeah.
You can decide that you want to start making those, and not only are you going to start making them, you're also going to decide that they're going to be better than most people's. And not only are you going to make them for yourself, but they're going to eventually be made and sold in all stores in the Northeast. I know the kind of beast that you are.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that fire inside of you, because I tell you what, right now, I have it in me as well. And that's one of the things I've always respected about you. I've always looked up to you in that way. Like, this guy is doing a lot of things that I know I want to get to one day. And when I find that motivation, I'm going to start to do it.
I think once you find what you love, you can do it. But you know, it's a good discussion for anybody who's kind of listening and not really sure. Like, man, don't be afraid, right, to try it.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that's easier said than done, but I got people around me right now that have huge talent in certain things. I'm not talking just music. I'm talking arts and different types of art and business, and they're scared, man. They're scared of failing. They're scared of trying it. And you got to really weigh it out. And I always told my kids, and I live by this, and I try to tell people, if you're not hurting yourself or anyone else intentionally, either physically, mentally, or spiritually, or emotionally, fuck it, man.
Exactly.
Go for it, man.
I must have got that from you, because I say that all the time. I must have got that from you. Yeah.
What's the worst going to happen?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Gotta more people out there gotta go for it.
Just go for it. And I think one of the things that people are afraid of, I know one of the things I used to be really afraid of, one of the things that killed my motivation back in the day was people laughing at me. I did not want to be laughed at. I cared so much about people's impression of me, how they saw me, and I didn't ever want people to watch me fail and laugh at me. And I remember the ad for Art of Combat, because in the first fight I got knocked out, and I remember being so ashamed when that commercial ran, and it was very humbling for me. But you know what I said to myself afterwards? I was like, I needed that. Okay, I needed to be humbled, and also, how much stronger will it make me for people to see me fail in that way? As a person, and I'm telling you right now, I am reaping the benefits of it right now mentally. Because I really, at this point in my life, could care less what people think about me, as long as I'm not hurting myself or hurting anybody else. I really could care less, because, like you said, I must have got these things from you. I must have been listening to you, because there's no way that we're just saying the same thing here.
Yeah, but you know what? You know, you were winning that fight, dude. You won. You were winning 2.5 rounds. I'm like, Biggs, he's got to knock you out. Just move around. But you wanted to get it. But at that point, like, can you reflect back on that? And this isn't to bring up bad memories. Like,
it's not a bad memory. I don't care about it. I mean, I love it. I love that it happened now.
Yeah, you learned from it. But like, looking back on it, like, you dominated him for 2 rounds, and going into the third round, I'm like, bro, just kind of move around. Don't engage. His corner is going to tell him he needs a knockout. Don't get into a brawl. And you're not a brawler. You're a technical finesse fighter. And for a big guy, there's not a lot of big guys that can do that. And you got sucked into a brawl with like 30 seconds left.
30 seconds left. I got knocked out.
And you kicked the shit out of him the whole fight. And he
looking
was
like E Honda, just got knocked the hell out from Street Fighter. You know what I'm saying? Black E Honda.
My God, I mean,
yeah.
I don't think there's ever been two dudes that intimidating walk in a cage in not any promotion I've been around. Because you were in shape at the time, and you're a big dude, and you're athletic as fuck, and then he was built, man. Wasn't he?
He looked like Michael Jai White. You know Michael Jai White, the actor? He looked just like Michael Jai White.
Yeah, the guy who played Black Panther.
Yeah, he was built just when that dude walked in the cage, dude. Yo, I was so scared, man. Not realizing this dude was even more scared than I was, evidenced by the way he fought. He did
Yeah.
not want to engage in the first 2.5 rounds at all. I was like, oh, so once I realized, so reflecting on the fight, once I realized that he was more afraid than I was, and all of his facial expressions were just a bravado,
Yeah,
I was like,
he
I
is.
got this. In my thought process, I got super cocky. I started dropping my hands like I was doing in training. I remember you telling me all the time. It's like, Johans, you're not Roy Jones Jr. Keep your hands up. So I went into that fight scared, but then I started just touching him whenever I felt like it. I even hit him with a spinning heel kick. Like, I don't think at that point, I don't
Yeah.
think I had ever seen another heavyweight, even in the UFC, do a spinning heel kick. At that point,
I
this was
tell
before Dos
people,
Santos did it.
I tell people to this day that you have never seen a 300-pound man do a jump spinning heel kick. And I mean, not just a spinning heel kick. You would get like 6-8 inches off the ground. But
But you know,
there's
yeah. I
it
will
is what
say
it is.
this: when I hear this stuff, it does make me have some regret. Because I'll tell you something right now, and I know you probably know what I'm gonna say. You put this brain I have currently in that body. You and I are all the way at the top.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? You
yeah,
would have been right there with me. You would have been right there with me, right alongside me.
yeah. No doubt. But you know what? There was a reason why that wasn't supposed to go down like that, right?
Yeah. I
So
guess there was. I guess there was, you know. But, sidetracking is slightly here. And, hard left here. Tell me, going back to the music real quick, um, what, who are some of the greatest who inspires you as far as songwriting goes? And what kind of music do you make exactly?
well, so I'll answer. That's kind of a two-part, but so musical influences. Um, Guitarist, it was Stevie Ray Vaughan because that was my time, and he's freaking amazing. I just never had the talent to be that good. So now talking music, Johannes, this is where like I had the drive and the talent in martial arts. Didn't have the right environment, but had the talent and drive. With guitar, everything is hard earned. I have heart, man. Like I had to earn everything I got because I'm not from a musical family and I never had lessons. So I just listened to, at the time when I was writing, getting into writing, it was Bob Dylan. And not that I am even in love with his music now, but the dude could write. Back then, Neil Young was a big lyric. So I like lyrics. People gravitate either towards lyrics or the music, and I gravitate more towards the lyrics. And nowadays, it's guys like Ben Howard. Ben Howard's an amazing lyricist. There's a guy out there, Lost Dog Street Band, Benjamin Todd. He's a freaking amazing lyricist. So these guys, and none of the guys I'm mentioning are necessarily phenomenal musicians. Well, Ben Howard is, but so I'm a lyricist heavy guy. So I write lyrics before I write the music, and some people write the music and try to force lyrics to it. So that's kind of how I approach it. So
Okay.
um,
So, yeah. So I'm more of the music, and I actually started producing a couple of songs a couple of years ago. Like I said, I'm essentially a miniature version of you in a sense. And one of my friends encouraged me to start freestyling. I was like, I don't know how to rap. And you go, no, go ahead and start freestyling. And I started doing it, and I started liking it. And then I was like, oh, I guess that means I'm gonna start making music now. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? I couldn't just
yeah,
freestyle. I had to figure out how to make music. So within a month, I learned how to make music. So I was producing music. I produced music for my friend Brian, who's been on a previous podcast, and he's an amazing rapper. And we learned how to make music together. I did it for like maybe 3 months, made like 4 or 5 songs, and I might link to them in the description down below because I had them on a different YouTube channel. And I did it for like 3 4 months. I was satisfied how good the songs were. They sounded professional, and I was like, I'm done with this now, and I stopped.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like the
yeah,
same behavior that I had when I did martial arts, where it was just like I felt like I conquered that now, so I'm done with it. What's next?
yeah,
There's
yeah.
just not no ability to maintain focus and drive. Let me ask you this question: how does one learn to do that? How do you learn to maintain focus and
I think, hmm, I don't know, man. It's just, I always knew that, well, I didn't always know it. It wasn't until after I graduated high school that I kind of came into my mental maturity, academically speaking. And then I started gaining confidence there. And then, I just always wanted, I guess, the things, martial arts and music are very much similar in terms of there's a science, there's also freestyle, putting your own touch on it, and there's plateaus that you have to work through. And I talked about that you kind of got to find your. I've always been able to find like plateaus, man, and set mini goals because it's
drive?
so fast. Like the martial arts, this is not like the void element is when you can pull in all the four other elements in an equal portion to create a void.
Okay.
It's all for so by the time they put us in the ground, we want to be the void element
Yes.
as best as we can, as close as we can be as a person. You can take that 5 element philosophy down to anything, you know. How good
Explain
are you?
briefly for the audience what that some of that is. You don't have to go. You can go into as much detail as you want, but
Yeah, because that
just
would
so
be like
people
a
know
whole
what you're talking about here.
that would be a whole podcast. But
I figured
yeah,
you say that.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
you're going to be back on in the future anyway, so we
yeah.
could talk about it then.
So the different elements, like I was saying, it's wind, water, earth, fire, void. There's times where you have to flow, kind of go with the flow, whether it's in conversation or music,
Hmm.
martial arts, fighting. Music sometimes just has to flow. There's times you have to be earthy and stand your ground. And in music, that might be just like the driving rhythm, bass player and drums,
Yeah.
driving rhythm on guitar, block and counter on fighting. Windy is kind of being elusive, being that elusive element. And that might be like flighty in music. It might be riffs, like just,
Oh,
riffing
gotcha.
out.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I love that. I
Yeah.
love
And
that.
then fire is where you have to sometimes turn on the gas, man. And like, you know, be aggressive, smell the blood in the water. And in music, there's times where you want to take the music up and be aggressive with it. And so that's like one aspect of it. That's the best I can say it. But I could drill down on writing a song, how that applies, or just learning music. There's so much, dude. There's so much in music and martial arts. And I use the bell-shaped curve a lot too, right?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I use the bell-shaped curve a lot, and I can tell you right
Let's
now,
hear it.
man, I'm in
That's
the
another thing
bottom.
I copied from you.
I'm in the bottom when it comes to like hands-on like car mechanics. I'm in the bottom 5% of the bell-shaped curve, man. You know,
Okay.
when it comes to martial arts, as a coach, I've come to accept that maybe I'm in the top 5% bell-shaped curve.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I always had a hard time saying that because it sounds very arrogant, and I don't.
Dude,
I'm
I've
not that.
I've trained with different coaches. When I left town, I trained with different. I trained with Ray Longo, who is
Yeah.
Chris Weidman's coach, and at the time, Chris Weidman was the UFC middleweight champion. And Ray Longo wasn't teaching anything better than you were teaching, dude. I was like, what the hell? Like, I was like, this dude's in the UFC, and his coach is not like, what is he? Porter's better than this. Like, what is?
Some coaches make it big because they have access to what we talked about earlier too, man. They have
Exactly.
the perfect blend of the guy. They have the guy. And then other people search them out based on that guy. So music, um, you know, I can write songs. And I feel like I'm on the right side of the bell-shaped curve. But as far as like musical, I'm to the right. But it's not natural. So I'm way left on natural ability on music.
Okay.
Okay. Whereas like martial arts was really easy. It clicked for me from a very early age. I remember taking my brother's old football pads and wrapping them and taping them around my knuckles after watching like Thomas Hearns, or whatever on TV, Troy Dorsey kickboxing. And I go down in the basement and punch the walls, and it just always clicked for me. Where music, I had to work my ass off for. So the 5 elements are something. So we're always striving to have the best of all those pieces And
Yeah.
if you think of it like that, I don't think anything ever really ends.
I mean, it applies to everything. It can apply to you personally. It can apply to whatever you're interested in. Whether it's music, martial arts, it applies to everything.
Right.
It's part of it is self-awareness. It's understanding. Because if you can, I don't know if did you ever see the last Avengers movie? Did you ever see that one with um I'm a bit of a nerd, so I watch all the comic book movies, but in the last, the Hulk, you know the character the Hulk, right?
I know the Hulk. Yeah.
Okay, so you know how he's angry, and that's what he's known for. He's known for being the angry guy, and that's how he gets strong.
Right.
There's a character in the Hulk comics called Professor Hulk, and what Professor Hulk is essentially when you merge the Incredible Hulk with Bruce Banner, who is the little skinny nerd. When you merge the two, then you have a complete person who is Professor Hulk, essentially, who was way more powerful than each one individually. Okay, so that's your void right there. Essentially, is the marriage of power, right? Marriage of power,
Right.
but mentally and physically, where you understand and you're self-aware enough to know when to be earth, when to be fire, when to be wind, etc., etc. Okay, so that's certainly, I do believe, can apply to all elements of your life, whether it's
All
music,
elements.
essentially, something that one of the things I'd like to encourage you to do, which I'm sure you've thought of already. Why don't you write a book, man?
It's funny you mentioned that because I kind of have like written a half-ass one for students, like a manual, and talked about the elements, but it's only like since this quarantine and I've had time, and I'm like, I've thought about it, Johans, and I actually was talking to my girlfriend last night about it. Oddly enough, you bring it up, and I don't know how to write it without it being perceived as arrogant, and I haven't come to terms with accepting. I don't know. I'm not good at receiving compliments, so I feel like it may come across. I worry about people thinking I'm coming across arrogant at certain times, if that makes sense. Like that. Like we all said, we have fears.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like my thing. So a lot of times I'll throw out disclaimers. I'll be like, before I even tell someone something, I'll be like, look, this is just my view on it. You take it, use it how you want, or don't use it. I don't really care. I don't want to come across as a know-it-all. Like,
yeah.
Well,
I mean, you are showing humility, which people love. People love when people show humility because most people don't feel that they're very special at all. And one thing people hate is when someone who is special knows they're special. So then you got people like LeBron James who
right.
gets an MVP award and goes, "I'm humbled by this award," which makes absolutely no sense. That's an oxymoron. You got this award because you're an exceptional person. So how are you humbled by it? But he says this because it's a PR move. What do you think? I mean, he's trying to make people think because people hate it. If LeBron got on stage and he said, "Guess what? I'm the greatest player of all time. This is why I got this award. At the very least, I'm the best player in the world right now. And look at this trophy. This is what proves it." How much how much endorsements would he lose if he said something like that? But I know he thinks that to himself.
Do you think?
Otherwise,
I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know LeBron. Like, right? So perception is. I don't know. I mean, with everything that's happened with Kobe Bryant, he's someone I would think. What a great man he was, right?
yeah, absolutely. I'm so saddened by his death.
So do you think he ever received those awards? And he wanted to be the best, man. He wanted people to think he was the best. And I think he even said that, like, I want to be the best, but I don't think you ever really seen him come out and say, I'm the best. Yeah. Like I guess it would be like Terrell Owens.
Yeah, T.O. Yep, T.O.
OBJ, like some of these guys.
Yeah.
Listen, it's the guys, when you score a touchdown, act like you've been there before, man.
Yeah.
Kind of attitude, right?
Yeah.
And it's the whole thing where I was always taught, if you talk shit, you usually are shit.
Okay.
Like, you don't have to talk. You don't have to tell people how good you are if you're good,
Right.
I guess.
It's like a
Right?
barking dog type of thing. Like a barking dog has no bite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I don't know if I think someone could be the level, and I'm not saying LeBron, but like of Kobe or LeBron, and still be humble. I think confidence and cockiness walk a very fine line.
Yes, absolutely.
You can be super confident. GSP, George St. Pierre, is super confident.
Mm-hmm.
And
the greatest fighter of all time.
And in his head, he might walk around, if he's being honest with himself, go, I am the greatest fighter of all time. But he doesn't go around feeling that or walking around like that.
Right.
Right? So if he's being truthful with himself, he knows he is, but he doesn't have to prove that by talking it, I guess.
So maybe that's how you maintain that line and staying on the right side of that line is by not going around telling everybody how great you think you are, but sort of staying focused and staying on focusing on what your task is. And if other people want to say that you're good, let them say it. But certainly if you're spending time talking about how great you are, maybe you're taking away from the time you could be spending perfecting your craft. Potentially. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm really just pulling that out of my butt right now. Not something I've thought about before at all.
I think a lot of people who talk shit, not even talk shit, that's the wrong word, cocky.
Yeah.
And talk about the 5 elements. Now, there's times where you have to be cocky, where you have to be the fire element, I would say.
Yeah.
And that is, when you're a fighter getting ready to walk in the cage, there's times in your life where you're getting ready to go to battle. You've got to be telling yourself, I'm the baddest. I'm Muhammad Ali, man. I think in personal life, Muhammad Ali was probably very humble and a great, confident man. But when he was getting ready for a fight, he was cocky. But
maybe part of it was him just getting in his opponent's head too. It's the same thing Conor McGregor kind of does. Yeah.
I think the Diaz brothers are straight up cocky.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that. I think their cockiness is they're emotionally weak somewhere.
Yeah. Interesting.
It doesn't mean they're not great fighters.
Interesting. Yeah.
But they're scared somehow.
It's like they're trying to compensate for some sort of insecurity.
Yeah.
They're trying to convince themselves that they're the shit more so than they're trying to convince other people.
Yeah.
Because that inner child is in there somewhere telling them, yeah, you're really nothing. You're really nothing. And so you're trying to tell him, no, I am something. But you're verbally saying it.
Like Muhammad Ali would say it, like, I'm the baddest motherfucker in the world, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't, from what I gather, people can correct me, but he wasn't talking shit about his opponent, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he was. I don't know enough about him to know that. But like, there's people out there that can say, hey, I'm the greatest in the world, but they're not talking crap about their opponent. Right. Then you got people, in my eyes, like Diaz brothers, who are cocky, but they're talking crap about their opponent, and they mean it. It's not just for PR.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I was at the UFC when I was sitting third row when George St. Pierre came back, his first fight back from his retirement, and it was in Montreal, where he's from. The freaking roof blew off that place. Anyway, I think he was fighting. I think it was Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is talking shit the whole time, man. And even when the round was over and George St. Pierre just got done hammering him, what people didn't see on pay-per-view because the camera cut, we seen watching it, Nate Diaz is on his back, bloodied up, just got the shit kicked out of him, flipping George St. Pierre off and talking shit. Like, that's just an asshole, dude. Like, that's not cocky for the sake of trying to get in your opponent's head. That's just someone who's got some insecurity problems and, like, I don't know, man.
You know what? There's so much truth to what you're saying. And I think not only do I agree with you, I firmly believe that I'm someone in my past who suffered from that myself, because I know that I knew subconsciously what my issue was, what my issues were, but I didn't want other people to know what my issues were. So therefore, let me mask that with some sort of fake bravado that really didn't really exist. I knew I wasn't I knew subconsciously, at the very least, that I wasn't giving 100%, but I wanted other people to think I was giving 100%. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've been there.
So I
I've
know
been there in
exactly
other
what.
aspects.
Yeah. So I do understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. But let
I
me
think
ask you this.
everybody's. Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think if people are being truthful, I think everybody's been there in some aspect of their life where they're masking something and overcompensated for that. I think that's why I got a lot of guys in the gym get a bad rap. That's judging a book by its cover. Not every guy who's muscle bound is in there because he's insecure. He's in there because he wants to be healthy and
Mm-hmm.
confident or whatever. And then there are the guys who are in there because they're insecure and they're insecure and they're trying to mask it with this size, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with guys who are constantly bullies. Bullying. That's
Yeah.
number one. Someone who's got a
100%.
insecurity.
100%. One of the telltale
So,
signs something that's going on with that person being a bully. What I wanted to ask you was where where do you sort of, now that we've covered some of the things that sort of, by the way, I didn't ask you where you're from originally. Are you from this area originally? Were you born in the Binghamton area? I know you're somewhere up in Owego right now, but
Tauga, yeah, I was born and raised in Tauga County,
okay.
and then lived in Johnson City for 30 years.
Wow.
Johnson City, Endicott,
Yeah.
and then moved back to this area 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was just about to close out an old 1905 farmhouse when this whole virus thing hit. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
was literally a week away, and then I said, I better hold off, man. So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
That would have been wonderful for you, man.
yeah,
But
settled out here.
now that we've covered, sort of the past and present and so on and things like that, I do want to ask you as well, though, if you, and this is going to be the most cliche question in the world, just to warn people, but if you could speak to Jay from 25 years ago, Jay from 15 years ago, and Jay from, let's say, 5 to 10 years ago, what would you say to those guys?
Jay, 25 years ago, I would have been 25 years old. Keep at it, man. You're on the right path. At that age, I was heading strong. I was just about ready to get into grad school. My daughter was 6 or 7. I had just picked up a guitar. I was training martial arts every day. I mean, I was balls out. I had a lot going on, and I was able to balance it pretty well. So I think I would tell myself 20 that at that age, just keep on keeping on.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware. Be aware that not everybody out there is a good person, and they got hidden agendas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that advice.
Okay. And no, go ahead.
I was gonna say 15 years ago, I was just 35. Well, I mean, I was what the hell was I doing at 35? Oh, I think I was just getting ready to maybe leave. I don't even remember, man. I think my first school was going pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I met you, I remember you were 38, turning 39 when I met you. So about 3 years
Yeah,
before that, I know you were coaching at that CNY MMA. About that
98.
age, about 38, 39. I remember you telling me that you were working for Lockheed and you were missing the fire. You were feeling that fire to come back to coaching. Do you think that was a good decision? No.
I was actually at Modern Marketing Concepts. Now that I think about it,
Okay.
so I had just gone through a divorce and my first school, it was still there, but I had to move away from being full time with it, um, to going back to being part time and taking a full time job, and then uh, having a friend of mine who taught at my school opening up a school and giving me an opportunity to come teach in what was supposed to be me taking over the Binghamton branch, CNY MMA.
I remember that.
So which didn't work. Uh, and then I inevitably opened up 5 Element MMA. So there was like a 3-year lapse where my school was part-time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so what would I tell myself at 35? You're going to have some really cool life experiences, man, and just getting started. But again, beware, man, because sheep dressed in wolf's clothing, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing to me. Like, that's been my thing. Like, I allowed myself, and talk about, like, we talk about having, I don't know if regret's the right word, or like embarrassment. It took me a while. I was embarrassed that I allowed myself to be naive. I think
Yeah.
that was the country boy that growing up, your friends, when they were loyal, they're loyal, man. They got your back, and they're still my friends today. Like, they got my back, but I just assumed everybody you met in life was going to be that kind of person. And I guess it
Yeah.
was an eye opener to me that people have underlying agendas, and some people just aren't good people, And,
That's one of the things that really impacted me myself. Once I got over that last relationship I was in for, for several years. And one of the things that person taught me was that, because I was, like you said, big heart. And that person taught me, she's like, Johans, do you realize that not everybody gives a shit about you? Do you realize that? I was like, no. I was like, no, that's not true. If I'm nice to people, they'll be nice to me. And she went, no, that's not the case at all. And that's when I got into, after that relationship, I started looking in this, and I looked into psychology, and I started becoming invested in that because I wanted to understand myself. And that's one of actually the way, the thing that allowed me to unlock self-awareness was looking into psychology and taking that personality test that I had you take. I don't know if you remember that last
yeah.
year. And stuff like that. Because you and I have always been like here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so once I unlocked self-awareness by taking personality tests and looking into, and anybody who's watching that knows me, I make everybody take the personality test. The people are nauseated by it at this point, but it just allowed me to understand myself in such a way that it made the world make sense to me. And one of the things I learned that appalled me was that not everybody gives a crap about everybody. Like, people out there, you can be sitting there smiling in someone's face, make them a hot meal, and give them a warm bed to sleep in, and they're sitting in that bed thinking, as soon as you go to sleep alongside me, I'm going to stab you in your back. But you're not expecting that because you're thinking you're giving 110% into making this person comfortable. And meanwhile, they're thinking, I cannot wait to screw this person. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
It blew my mind, Jay. And it made me scared. And actually what it did was it forced me to retreat from society to some degree, and then it made me make my circle small. So I have a very small circle, and I really just keep to myself. I have my wife and my close friends, and that's pretty much it. I don't go around hanging around with a lot of people. I go to work, I come home, and I focus on this YouTube channel, and that's pretty much it. And I'm very happy doing that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there. So same kind of experience, Johannes. I've made my circle very small. And I had someone tell me, Jay, you're a good person, so you expect everybody else to be good. And that resonated with me. I'm like, holy crap, I really didn't think about that. And then unfortunately, the people who are out there looking to hurt you or don't have the loyalty, they are gonna, I mean, it's not even, some of them, it's conscious. It's a conscious decision to I'm gonna screw this guy, and it doesn't really matter. And then they go, and then but some of them, it's subconscious. I think they're hurting, and they have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people are just downright like evil, man. Like it's not good enough that they kind of stomped on you. They had to go out and spread horrible shit about people,
Yeah.
to like further it.
Well, yeah,
And I
but
think
they got to protect their decision making by making you
they
look
got to
bad.
protect their decision making, and they got to pull people, around them that agree, or that they
Yeah,
can,
of course, to
or they
validate
can,
them.
or
To
they can
validate them.
influence.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Narcissism I didn't know about until very recently.
Me, ditto.
I mean, holy shit, I've met some
Yeah.
narcissists that I didn't know were narcissists. And now that I've learned that, I guess I would be able to spot them. So I guess I was ignorant and naive, ignorant to the types of people that are out there. So yeah, um, unfortunately, it was one of the reasons I got out of the martial arts business, because martial arts used to mean honesty, loyalty, and respect. That were kind of the three things I was brought up: be honest, be loyal, and to your instructor and your training partners, and then that kind of expands out into your life, and then respect, give mutual respect. And I tried to teach that, and a lot of students grasped it. Some did it, man, and that's where it kind of pushed me out, because it no longer, don't call it martial arts. It's fighting. Martial
Mm.
arts to me has a traditional connotation where I'm teaching and you're learning, we're all learning how to be respectful, honest, and loyal, and not blind loyalty either, but just loyal. And then it became fighting, man.
Because they
Drama,
removed this part
disrespect.
of the equation. They moved the mental aspect, and it became
And
strictly
and
this.
when you start going to promotions and you're cornering your guys, and there's dudes from the other team like in your ear yelling disrespectful crap, that's not martial arts, man.
No, it's
And
not.
people backstabbing each other, that's not martial arts. So people have to, in some ways, MMA has given martial arts a black eye too, to some extent. So, I used to let, like, that all really hurt me when I first got out of it. I told you that earlier.
Yeah, you did.
It started to make me very pessimistic and towards people in general. And I was never like that. I used to be the type of person, when I met you, I gave you 100% respect, and you maintained that, or you pulled away from it as I got to know you. And then there's other people who give you no respect and you can add to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you meet people that are like, they're standoffish, they're not going to give you any respect, and you have to earn it. There's nothing wrong with that. And quite honestly, it's a defensive, it's a protection mechanism, and not a bad one, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always gave the people respect and they would take away from it. But that opens you up and makes you vulnerable to hurt, because
Yeah.
you're going to be, disrespected, or you're going to learn that someone had a hidden agenda. So it makes, vulnerability is tough.
Yeah.
So I had to take all those, I was saying earlier, ball peen hammers and sledgehammers of hurt from various relationships, friendships, business partnerships, whatever. And it made me very pessimistic 2 years ago. I mean, I was in a kind of a bad place, I guess, 2 years ago or so, because and I don't mean bad place like suicidal or nothing like that, or, bad place in terms of I wasn't very trusting of people, and
Yeah.
I was very pessimistic. And I actually started reading it, and dude, I go to therapy once every couple of weeks.
Yeah. Therapy is awesome. Everybody should go to
And
therapy.
you know what?
Everybody. Okay.
There's gonna be people that watch this and think, "Oh, he's a crazy son." No, I want to be a
Oh,
better person tomorrow
yes.
than I
Mm-hmm.
am today. And if we put as much stock into our mental health as we do our physical health, the world will be at a better place. And you know
Wonderful.
what? As acclimated as I am and the upbringing I had great parents. I wasn't abused, none of this stuff, and I still have issues that I think that are holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
And I seek out therapy
Mm-hmm.
to be a better person. You know how many people out there could benefit from therapy? If this society wants to get better, give
Mm.
everybody 6 therapy sessions a year free of charge.
Oh my God. I love that you're
Everybody should
saying
go to
this.
therapy, man.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
talk to somebody who's not going to judge you. Talk to somebody to help you gain some light, man. And it's not easy. It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, it's very reading wasn't enough for me anymore. So I wanted to go talk to somebody too. Like my science, the curiosity got to me, and it's really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm learning how to forgive the people who have hurt me, and you know, it doesn't mean you forget it.
Right.
You just forgive them, you know, and it's, you have to learn to forgive them, because it's only holding on to that negative energy and that pain is only going to make your life not happy,
Yeah.
pessimistic of people, you know, to some extent miserable.
Don't let them live in your head. Don't let them
Right.
live in your head at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's their burden to carry, you know, they have to do self-reflection. I'm doing my part, man.
Mm-hmm.
They have to learn how to do their part. So I have to forgive them. They obviously, the people who hurt you, are in pain themselves, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah, and that's yeah.
So
So
typically,
what I wanted to ask you finally is, where do you, another cliche question, where do you see yourself in 10 to 15 years? And you might have covered some of this already, but just to bring it full circle here, and complete the arc. Where does Jay see himself in 10 to 15 years? What are you doing? What are the guy
um,
doing?
well, speaking with the emotional part, being more whole and content emotionally and mentally. I wouldn't even say mentally, emotionally for me. Um, I feel like I have ways to kind of challenge myself mentally, and I don't think that's ever going to stop. You're the same way. We're always seeking out, learning new things. Like
I
you
hope you don't
gotta,
ever
I tell
stop, brother.
people,
I hope you don't ever stop.
you got to feed your soul, and
Mhm.
that could be through learning. But emotionally being a stronger person down the road, and that's huge, and that's not something I say lightly, because if anybody, most people, if they're out there listening and they're being truthful, they got baggage they're holding on to. If they could learn how to get rid of it and live their what was their best life
Mhm.
emotionally,
Yep.
that's a big thing.
Yep.
So on that front, that's there. Right now, I'm really digging the music thing. I mean, I play with the Smoking Crows, which is a blues rock band that plays original music, and we played Blues on the Bridge, which was a pretty big deal for local regional music. Kind of taking a little hiatus there, but I play solo, and I've played some. Been fortunate enough to play some pretty big festivals, and but it's like anything else, man. You got to know the right people, and there's marketing. So I'd like to learn better how to do that, and so I can look back on it and say I did everything I could. I just wasn't good enough. You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to not do it and then be like, oh, maybe I could have done it. If, you know, maybe I was
Yeah.
good enough.
Yeah.
And then I play this new project I'm doing. Jay Floyd and the Gravesitters is basically taking my original music that I do solo, and it's more of an Americana, um, stand-up bass and you know, violinist and stuff. It's
Oh
really cool
wow.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
I
got a
love it.
stand-up bass player, and it's a 6-piece,
Okay.
and it's really cool to see the stuff you write. Not that it wasn't cool with the Smoking Crows blues rock, but I'm saying that this is a different genre. It's really cool to see the stuff you write come to kind of the Smoking Crows was a democracy, and rightfully so. They're really close friends of mine, and I love those guys. And we would make a decision as a democracy. And this new project was me looking for the guys and pulling them in.
Right. Right.
And they're phenomenal musicians, and saying, okay, this is the vision I have. And them buying into it and saying, we're going to take what's in your head and pull it out. And
Okay.
I'm going to help you do that. And you don't have to there's no democracy. You don't have to compromise.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I'm not looking for them for advice and guidance, but it's allowing me to kind of pull out of what I got my head into a live band, which is really neat. So, you know, wrong or right, I'd kind of like to see that do something. I guess, you know, my girlfriend asked me, well, what's successful to you in music? And I I would like to play some larger regional festivals. I mean, I'm, you know, not, success isn't radio play or national touring act. It's getting your word out there. Is success is fulfilling the potential you think you have, I
Yes.
guess.
Exactly. I
You
was waiting
know?
for you to say that, brother. I was
Yeah,
waiting for
I'm
you to say
not
that.
I don't have I'm not delusional. I'm not going to be a nationally touring act. I'm not going to sign a record contract. But I think, you know, there's opportunities outside of my area if I can get the right. Man, there's a lot of it's networking, bro. I mean, there's
I
a
just
lot of
think
great. There's a
I
lot of
just
great
think that you
fighters
could
out
you could
there
do
who
that if
never
you
get a
wanted to.
chance, huh?
I think you can do that if you wanted to, though. If you
Well,
wanted
there's a
to, I
lot of
think you
great
can do
fighters out there who don't get a chance. So how do they get their name?
it.
You know,
Yeah,
we've seen
networking.
guys who just fell through the cracks because they don't have maybe. I've seen fighters not fight in UFC because they didn't have the look.
Yeah.
And UFC straight up tell them, you got the technical skill, but you don't really have the look we want.
I know exactly what
Or
you're
or
talking
we
about.
know fighters who had the technical skill, but they're boring to watch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's different factors that go in, too.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but 15 down the road, I mean, I'd like to take. I don't think the martial arts thing's done. I think I'm going to teach 2 nights a week, 3 nights a week, probably for the next 20 years. I think keeping it where I'm tailoring it to the general public, people who want it for self-defense and working out and sharing the martial art that way. That is fulfilling, but if I'm going to be completely honest with you, I do want one more 5-year span where I'm all in. Give me 4 guys who are all in to fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, 3 or 4 guys that I've already worked with,
Mm-hmm.
and that I can kind of handpick. Well, first they got to want to work with me and
Right,
be
right.
interested, and then I could be like yes or no.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, let's balls out, go for this for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
I kind of do have that nagging want, but I don't know if
That
it'll
would make
happen.
me extremely happy if you were able to do that.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Because there's some, like you said, system analysts. There are certain things that I think that if you were able to show to the world as far as your martial art and your philosophy, brother, it might change martial arts. There's some things that you teach that, including the 5 elements, that I don't think I've heard from any other coach. Period. The psychological
I used
elements.
I used to teach stuff and then see it pop up in UFC, and guys would be like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah, we do that, bro." We do that. because and that's not arrogance. That's just that's how young the sport is still.
Yeah, that's true.
It's still so
People
young.
are still evolving. Yeah.
But we've got honestly, Johan, I mean, past teammates of yours, I mean, there's 3 or 4 guys that are still out there that want to get some shit done that if they dedicated themselves, they could do it, man.
I'm gonna name drop. There's one guy that I'm still friends with, and when I see him, he gives me lots of love. That I feel like has that sky's the limit potential, and one of those guys is Conley, Tom Conley.
Yeah,
I think if Tommy Gunn can get the right opportunity and get the right momentum going, he could do something special. And there's a few other guys as well.
Tommy's one of the guys that picked it up. He had the aptitude, right? So he was already predisposition to. He has a fighter's. He has the ability to learn it. He has a fighter's build, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He walks that fine line between confident and cocky.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that with disrespect. I say that with love. Like, you have to have that.
Yeah.
And he does, and he does it. He does it well. You know, he's coachable. His thing is, and maybe, and Tom, if you're listening, I love you, and I don't mean it. You know, maybe it's changed in the last 2-3 years. He would go hard, but he has to go hard training all the time.
Yeah.
Take a month off, but always be hitting the weights, always be running sprints.
Yeah.
Always be getting your rounds in. And it doesn't mean they have to be hard rounds. But, like, there's a difference between an amateur and a pro. And, like, Matt Almy, who was pro, that was one of the biggest things he said coming back from Jackson camp. He said, he said he goes, they had nothing really to offer that the school, the 5 element had, and the teammates I had, except they had access to bigger opportunities. They had a bigger team of guys that were higher end because they had already worked through the amateur and were into the pros, so they had high quality talent. And they work their asses off.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the difference between an amateur and a pro. A pro doesn't stop. Patchy Mix doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
He eats and breathes and lives it, you know? And I'm not saying Tommy's not going to have a good career, man. I mean, the kid is fucking sick.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I hope he's putting in all the effort. I hope he's not sitting there like you and I and when he's our ages and saying, shit.
Yeah.
I could have probably done this a little harder or not a little harder.
I could have put more element, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing I would only advice. And if he's listening to this, I hope he knows it's all. I say that all with love and respect because he's one of the guys that I still do talk to. Him and John, and they're good fucking kids, man. I got a lot of love for them.
They're good dudes. They're good, and they're young enough that they can still can still have the opportunity here.
Oh my God, Tom can still do it. Yeah. You know who I ran into the other day, and well, I don't know. I shouldn't probably say anything. But there was a really good wrestler on our team that had a really good amateur career, and then went back to college.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's only 26.
Yeah.
And I ran into him, and his life is in a good place right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think I want to take 2 years and work my fucking ass off and like take a shot at this pro thing.
Okay.
So he's one of them that I've given serious consideration to. And another guy that we mentioned earlier had mentioned to come back and want me in his corner. So, I mean, I think that, you know, I would love an opportunity to work with some of those guys for sure. I miss that.
I love it. I really hope that happens. And
It'd be cool.
I will lay witness, and I will try to be a part of it as far as witness and see what's going on. So let me ask you one final question here, brother. When's poker night, man? When is poker night gonna happen again, brother?
Supposed to do that.
What happened to poker night, man?
Something came up, right?
I don't know what happened, man. I don't know what happened. I mean, it was last fall. It was way before Corona, so we didn't have Corona as an excuse. So what I'm saying is ultimately is when Corona is over, poker night. Okay.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do that. I'd love to spend more time with some of those guys and yourself. So for sure.
All right. And I really do appreciate you joining me. Any final words that you want to leave with us?
Nah, just keep. I don't know. You're doing great things here, man. I think it's awesome, and I hope when it's really sailing that you have me back too. You know, when you're Joe Rogan's competitor. You know,
I don't know about that, man. Too. I don't know about that, but Binghamton Rogan is more of you know, but bro Rogan.
I think if anybody was listening to our podcast, you and I were both talking about, hey man, go for it, right?
Yeah.
Don't, you know, I had this saying that one of my instructors taught me. He said, don't be 40 and have regret.
Yeah.
He said regret doesn't mean that. He says, live life to the fullest and die without regret is actually what he said.
That would make me so sad if I died with regret. I already have some regret where it comes to MMA.
Right. So that was like a big thing for me. And he said, listen, living life to the fullest isn't superficial or financial or material.
Yeah.
It's living life to the fullest. Yeah. Die without regret. Don't think there was something you wanted to do and you didn't do it. Yeah. And it's very hard to do die without regret. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So I would tell anybody, you know, put a plan in place, man, and go for it. You're doing it. You've done it before. You're doing it now. I've done it. I mean,
yeah.
So if anything, I would love to see more people who are quote unquote wasting their potential to just go for it, man. Take the time right now, and you're isolated to write up a game plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
100%. 100%. I love it, Jay. And I want to thank you once again for joining us on Just a Thought, the podcast, quarantine podcast series here.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait to have you back and stuff. And down the line, we'll do it in person. Not only we'll do it in person. Also, I'll film everything and put it together. I'll do the nice cuts and so on. I'm getting better at editing videos and things like that. So we're gonna do some nice stuff. And we had some great conversation at that beautiful bar that your girlfriend works at up there. So I would love to do something up there eventually once we're past this pandemic here, which so on. So thank you for joining me. And
yeah, brother.
Yeah. All right. So you take care, brother. I'll be
All
in
right, you
touch with
be
you
too
soon.
good. You be
All right.
you be good, bro. Be safe.
Thank you very much. Bye
All
bye.
right, bye.